On the second step, we calculate of cost per equivalent unit, mean cost per unit. What we have calculated equivalent units, we use those equivalent units for the calculating of per unit cost. For the calculation of per unit cost of equivalent units, we need two things. Number one, total cost of the period. Mean in the month of May, what costs have been consumed, what costs have been charged to that department, that is shaping and milling department. And what are the equivalent units of production for that period? What are the equivalent production in the month of May? And we have to calculate these two things for the calculation of per unit cost of equivalent unit. And for the calculation of these things, we have to prepare another segment of cost of production report that is called cost accumulation summary. This is the cost accumulation summary and cost accumulation and equivalent per unit cost calculation summary. So this is in this portion, we calculate what cost has been accumulated in this department and what is the per unit of cost or per unit equivalent, per equivalent unit cost. So we have three columns, that is total cost, material and conversion. Likewise, you may have three columns, material, labor, FOH. Likewise, you have four columns, previous department cost, material, labor, FOH. You may have three columns, previous department, material, conversion. So different formats can be there, different information on the basis of information given in your question, you may have your columns. So these are the same columns which were used in our previous table. Same like that. We have prepared that, and in this we have also prepared that. So where this is total cost, this can be at the end and this can be at the start. So here is the total cost, and we have basically two lots of units. That is the units which are on May 1. Those units were on June in production, but they were not completed in that month and transferred to the next month and still in the process, and they are from the previous period. That period cost might be different. That period cost might be, per unit cost might be different. But now in this period, we have added 3,68,600 materials and 3,50,900 labor, and the previous cost of work in process May 1 inventory is 9,600 materials and 5,575 is conversion, and the total cost of those units are 15,175. And here we have added this period cost, and the total cost is 7,19,500, and the total of the both costs are this 9,600 plus 368,600, that is 3,78,200, and 5,575 plus 3,50,900, that is 3,56,475. So this is total conversion cost, this is total materials cost, and this is the total grand total of these costs. Now look at this. We have combined both of the costs, mean opening inventory cost plus this period cost. That opening inventory cost is the cost of previous period, and this cost is the current period. So previous period cost and this period cost has been combined. We have combined both of the costs. That is basically weighted average method. In weighted average method, we combine the previous units with the units, and we combine the previous cost with the current cost. In this way, we take average cost. But in first in first out method, which we learn in future, first in first out method, we keep the units separate and keep their cost as well separate. We calculate separate cost for those units, and we calculate separate cost for this period units. This is first in first out method. But in average method, we don't distinguish previous units and current units, and for the calculating of equivalent units, we had combined all those units. Look at this. I let me explain this. We have completed 4,800 units, but these 4,800 units inclusive of 200 units, because we haven't distinguished them or eliminated them or write them separately. Because 200 units are inclusive of in this 4800. So we have 200 units, we had and more units 5000, and among more 5000 units, from these 5000 units we have completed 4600 units, and 400 units are still on hand. But 4800 units includes 200 those units which were started in the previous period and were partially completed, because when we will do work on these units, automatically they will be completed first, but we haven't sent them separately from these units, but we have combined them with these units. That's the logic why we add them these with the current period production, and likewise their cost is also added with the current period production cost. So previous cost plus current cost, that is the total cost, and equivalent units which we have calculated in our previous table, that is material and that is conversion. Don't keep in mind, don't total then and write here total. Do not do this. I haven't mentioned this figure over here. Keep them separately, because we have to use these figures for calculating of per unit material cost and per unit conversion cost, and from this per unit material and conversion cost we will calculate per unit total cost. But we will not do this 7,34,637 divided by the total of these two figures. Don't do this. This is a wrong approach. Your answer will be wrong. So you have to compute these total costs and then divide total cost with the relevant equivalent units of that particular cost element. That is 3,78,200 divided by 4,960, that is 76.25. That is per unit equivalent unit cost of materials. And likewise when we calculate per equivalent unit of conversion cost, that is 72.75. This is basically 3,56,475 divided by 4,900, so that is equal to 72.75. and when we total them, when we combine, when we sum up 76.25 and 72.75, then the total completed unit cost is 149. It means we have per unit cost in which 76.25 is material and 72.75 is conversion, and the both cost is the combination of total cost. So this is the total cost of per unit. It means in our department in the month of May, we have per unit cost of completed goods is 149. And in 149 there is 76.25 materials cost and 72.75 is conversion cost inclusive of labor and FOH. So don't do this, don't do total this calculation with the figures of total, but do these calculation with the figures of individual cost elements, and at the end sum up these individual figures to get the total cost per unit of the production.